You want us to do what now? Captain Zixnager of the Galactic Confederation 17th Conquest Fleet spluttered, his tentacles writhing in a mixture of disbelief and barely contained laughter. Admiral Krathos, leader of the Confederation's military forces, fixed the captain with all four of his eyes, his scaly brow furrowing in annoyance. I said, Captain, that we are to launch an invasion of the planet known as Earth in the Sol system. Our intelligence suggests they are a pre-FTL civilization with minimal defensive capabilities. It should be an easy conquest. Zixnager couldn't help it. He burst into laughter, a series of high-pitched clicks and whistles that echoed around the bridge of his flagship, the Unstoppable Doom. The rest of the bridge crew, a motley assortment of various alien species, looked at their captain with a mixture of confusion and concern. I'm sorry, Admiral, Zixnager managed between fits of laughter, but have you been drinking Zorgenfire whiskey again? Because that's the only explanation I can think of for this absolute lunacy. Admiral Krathos' scales flushed a deep purple, a sign of his rising anger. This is no laughing matter, Captain. The High Council has decreed that Earth must be brought into the Confederation, by force if necessary. Are you refusing a direct order? Zixnager's laughter subsided, replaced by a sardonic grin that showed off his rows of needle-like teeth. Oh, I'm not refusing, Admiral. I'm just trying to save your scaly hide from the biggest embarrassment since the Blargan attempted to invade a black hole because they thought it was a really dark planet. The Admiral's eyes narrowed. Explain yourself, Captain. Now. Zixnager sighed, his tentacles drooping in exasperation. All right, gather round, children. It's time for a little history lesson. He pressed a button on his command chair, and a holographic image of Earth appeared in the center of the bridge. This, my dear Admiral, is Earth. Lovely little mud ball, isn't it? Now, you'd think it would be easy pickings. Pre-FTL, limited space presence, no energy shields, no faster-than-light weapons. It should be a cakewalk, right? Admiral Krathos nodded impatiently. Exactly, which is why I don't understand your reluctance, Captain. Zixnager's grin widened. Oh, sweet, naive Admiral, let me tell you a little story. About 200 standard galactic years ago, the Drekkar Empire decided to do exactly what you're proposing. They were riding high on their recent conquests, thought they were invincible. So they sent a fleet to Earth, figuring they'd have the planet under their control within a solar rotation. The captain paused for dramatic effect, his tentacles waving in an approximation of a human's finger wagging. Do you know what happened to that fleet, Admiral? Krathos frowned. I'm not familiar with this incident. Of course you're not. Zixnager exclaimed, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Because there's not a single Drekkar left in the galaxy to tell the tale. Their entire species wiped out. Poof. Gone. And do you know why? The Admiral's scales had paled to a sickly green. Why? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Zixnager leaned in close, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial tone. Because, my dear Admiral, the humans ate them. A collective gasp went up from the bridge crew. Admiral Krathos stumbled back, his lower pair of arms grasping for support on a nearby console. That's impossible. Surely you're joking, Captain. The captain's laughter returned, a harsh, barking sound. Oh, I wish I was joking, Admiral, but it's the honest-to-Zorg truth. The humans, those defenseless little apes, not only repelled the Drekkar invasion but then proceeded to hunt down every last one of them across the galaxy. And when I say hunt, I mean it in the most literal sense. Zixnager turned to his communications officer, a Vrolic with the elongated fingers perfect for operating the complex array of buttons and switches. Lieutenant, pull up the classified file on the Earth Drekkar War, authorization code Zulu Tango Foxtrot 42069. The bridge's main view screen flickered to life, displaying a series of gruesome images that made even the most hardened of the alien warriors flinch. Scenes of Drekkar ships being torn apart by crude but effective human weaponry, of human soldiers in powered armor ripping through Drekkar defenses like tissue paper, and most disturbingly, of humans eating their defeated foes. But how? Admiral Krathos stammered, his eyes wide with horror. The Drekkar were one of the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. Zixnager's expression turned grim. That's the thing about humans, Admiral. They're innovative. So when the Drekkar showed up with their fancy energy weapons and force fields, the humans didn't just roll over and die. Oh no, they got creative. The captain manipulated the holographic display, zooming in on various human weapons and vehicles. See this? They call it an electromagnetic pulse. Turns out it's really good at frying advanced electronics. And this beauty, a kinetic energy weapon. Basically, they just throw really big rocks really fast. No fancy energy fields can stop good old-fashioned momentum. Admiral Krathos had regained some of his composure, but his voice still quavered as he spoke. But eating them? Surely that's an exaggeration. Zixnager's laughter had a bitter edge to it now. Oh, I wish it was, Admiral. But the humans have the saying, waste not, want not. When they realized that Drekar flesh was not only edible but apparently quite delicious by their standards, well, let's just say they found a way to solve two problems at once: disposal of enemy corpses and feeding their troops. The Admiral looked like he was about to be sick. That's barbaric. Barbaric, Zixnager repeated, his voice rising. Oh, my sweet summer child, you haven't seen barbaric yet. Let me tell you about something the humans call psychological warfare. The captain pulled up another set of images, these showing human soldiers wearing armor decorated with Drekar bones and teeth. They didn't just eat the Drekar, Admiral. They wore their bones as trophies. They broadcast images of their feasts across every frequency the Drekar used. They turned the Drekar's own fear against them. Admiral Krathos collapsed into a nearby chair, his scales now a pale, sickly white. But our intelligence reports. Zixnager cut him off with a wave of a tentacle. Are outdated, incomplete, or deliberate misinformation spread by the humans themselves. They want us to think they're defenseless. They're practically salivating at the thought of some poor, unsuspecting alien race trying to invade. The captain's voice took on a mocking tone as he continued, oh, and let's not forget their entertainment. Have you seen what passes for fiction on that planet? They have entire genres dedicated to the gruesome deaths of invading aliens. They call it science fiction, but I call it a war crime waiting to happen. He pulled up yet another set of images, this time showing scenes from various human movies and video games. Aliens being blown apart, melted by acid, thrown into space, and subjected to all manner of creative and horrifying deaths. This, Admiral, is what humans do for fun. They spend their free time imagining new and exciting ways to kill aliens. And let me tell you, they are disturbingly good at it. Admiral Krathos had gone from sickly white to a green that suggested he might lose his lunch at any moment. But surely not all humans are like this. There must be some who would welcome us, who would see the benefits of joining the Confederation. Zixnager's laughter took on a hysterical edge. Oh, that's rich. You think we'd be the first to try that approach? Let me tell you about the Zarshushu Collective. Lovely folks big on peace and harmony. They tried to make friendly contact with Earth about 50 years ago. Wanted to invite them into their little galactic utopia. The captain's voice dropped to a whisper, as if he was telling a ghost story. You know what happened to them. The humans smiled and said they'd be delighted to join. Then they proceeded to systematically take over the entire collective from the inside out. Within a decade, the Zarshu were reduced to a client race on their own homeworld, with humans running everything. He leaned in close to the Admiral, his voice deadly serious. And do you know what the worst part was? The Zarshu thanked them for it. Said the humans had improved efficiency and optimized resource allocation. It was like watching the Vlorbaks thank the Gorgon that's eating it for improving its body composition. Admiral Krathos looked like he was about to faint. But how? How can one species be so terrifying? Zixnager supplied helpfully. Ruthless? Adaptable? Take your pick, Admiral. The humans are all of that and more. They're a species that evolved on a death world, where everything, even the plants, tried to kill them. They didn't just survive, they thrived. They turned their planet's most deadly predators into pets. They eat food that would kill most species for fun. They voluntarily jump out of perfectly good aircraft for entertainment. The captain's voice took on a tone of grudging admiration. And the worst part, the absolute worst part, they're nice about it. They'll smile and shake your hand while they're figuring out 17 different ways to use your own biology against you. They'll welcome you into their homes, feed you their food, introduce you to their families, and then use everything they've learned to dismantle your entire civilization if you so much as look at them funny. Admiral Krathos had gone from green to a pale blue, a sign of deep distress in his species. But what can we do? The High Council has ordered the invasion. We can't just ignore a direct order. Zixnager's grin returned, this time with a conspiratorial edge. Oh, we're not going to ignore the order, my dear Admiral. We're going to follow it to the letter. We're going to take this fleet to the Sol system, make a big show of our invasion force, and then we're going to do something no other species has had the brains to do when confronted with humanity. The Admiral leaned forward, his curiosity overcoming his fear. And what's that, Captain? Zixnager's grin widened to truly alarming proportions. We're going to surrender. There was a moment of stunned silence on the bridge, broken only by the soft beeping of various consoles. Then, as one, the entire crew burst into laughter. Admiral Krathos, however, didn't seem to find it amusing. Captain, have you lost your mind? Surrender. To a pre-FTL civilization. The High Council would have our heads. Zixnager waved a dismissive tentacle. Oh, please. The High Council will be too busy trying to figure out how to keep their exalted positions once the humans are done with them. Trust me, Admiral, surrender is our best option. In fact, it's our only option if we want to survive this with our tentacle scales and various other appendages intact. The captain turned to address the entire bridge crew. Think about it, folks. We show up in the Sol system, make a big show of our invasion fleet, and then immediately open communications to offer our surrender. We tell the humans that we've heard of their great and terrible deeds, that we're in awe of their martial prowess, and that we humbly offer ourselves as their servants in exchange for their merciful protection. He paused, letting his words sink in. The humans, being the megalomaniacs they are, will eat it up. They'll be so flattered by our recognition of their superiority that they'll welcome us with open arms. And then, my friends, will be in the perfect position to observe them up close, learn their weaknesses, if they have any, and report back to the Confederation. Admiral Krathos stroked his chin thoughtfully with one of his lower arms. That's actually not a terrible plan, Captain. But what if they see through our ruse? Zixnager's laughter returned, but this time it had a nervous edge to it. Oh, they'll see through it, Admiral. Count on it. The humans aren't just brutal, they're smart. They'll know exactly what we're up to. But here's the beautiful part. They'll play along anyway. The captain's voice took on a lecturing tone. You see, humans have this concept called plausible deniability. They'll pretend to believe our surrender is genuine, even though they know it's not, because it gives them an excuse to let us stick around. And why would they want that, you ask? Because we'll be bringing them something they prize above all else, new technology. He gestured to the various advanced systems on the bridge. Our faster-than-light drives, our energy weapons, our replicators, the humans will be salivating at the chance to get their hands on this tech. They'll treat us like honored guests, all while they're taking apart our ships with their eyes and figuring out how to improve every single system. Admiral Krathos nodded slowly, beginning to see the logic in the captain's plan, and by the time they've learned everything they can from us. Exactly, Zixnager exclaimed. By the time they've milked us for every scrap of knowledge, it'll be too late for the Confederation to do anything about it. The humans will have leapfrogged centuries of technological development, and we'll be the ones who handed it to them on a silver platter. The Admiral's expression turned thoughtful, but won't that just make them even more dangerous? Zixnager's laughter had a fatalistic edge to it now. Oh, Admiral, they're going to become a galactic superpower whether we like it or not. The question is, do we want to be on their good side when it happens? Or do we want to end up as the main course at their victory feast? He turned back to the main view screen, which now showed an image of Earth, that deceptively peaceful-looking blue marble. Make no mistake, my friends. Humanity is coming to the galactic stage, and they're not going to knock politely and ask to be let in. They're going to kick down the door, walk in like they own the place, and somehow convince everyone that we invited them. The captain's voice took on a tone of grudging respect. And the real kicker? By the time they're done, we'll probably be thanking them for it. Because if there's one thing humans are better at than warfare, it's making you believe that everything they do is for your own good. Admiral Krathos stood up, his posture straightening as he came to a decision. Very well, Captain. We'll proceed with your unconventional plan, but I might want it on record that I think this is absolutely insane. Zixnager's grin returned full force. Noted. Admiral. But trust me, when it comes to dealing with humans, insanity is the only sane response. He turned to his navigation officer. Set a course for the Sol system, maximum speed. It's time to go make some new friends. And pray they don't decide we look delicious. As the unstoppable Doom and its fleet set course for Earth, Captain Zixnager couldn't help but feel a mixture of excitement and dread. He'd spent his entire career avoiding the Sol system like it was infected with the Andromeda strain, and now he was willingly flying straight into the proverbial lion's den. You know, he mused aloud, his tentacles twirling thoughtfully. I once met a Rigelian trader who'd actually been to Earth. Poor bastard was never the same after that. Admiral Krathos, who had been staring morosely at the swirling colors of hyperspace, perked up at this. Oh, what happened to him? Zixnager's expression turned grim. Well, apparently he'd gone there to try and sell some trinkets. You know how the Rigelians are, always looking for a quick profit. Anyway, he lands his ship in some place called New York City, thinking he's being all sneaky. The captain paused for dramatic effect, his eyes twinkling with mischief. Next thing he knows, he's surrounded by humans. But here's the kicker, they weren't scared, they weren't even surprised. You know what they did. The Admiral leaned in, despite himself. What? They tried to sell him stuff. Zixnager burst out laughing, a sound somewhere between a dolphin's click and a hyena's cackle. Picture it, this poor Rigelian standing there with his tentacles full of cheap plastic D-balls, and the humans are shoving hot dogs in his face, trying to get him to buy knockoff handbags and tickets to something called Hamilton. The bridge crew, who had been listening intently, couldn't help but join in the laughter. Even Admiral Krathos cracked a smile, his scales shifting to a more relaxed shade of blue. But surely, the Admiral said once the laughter had died down, that's just one city. The rest of the planet can't be like that. Zixnager's laughter cut off abruptly, replaced by a look of mock horror. Oh, my sweet summer child, that was one of their tamer cities. Let me tell you about a place they call Florida. Before the captain could launch into what was sure to be another terrifying tale, the navigation officer interrupted. Captain, we're approaching the Sol system. We'll be dropping out of hyperspace in 5 minutes. The mood on the bridge instantly shifted from jovial to tense. Zixnager straightened up, his tentacles coiling tightly around his command chair. Right then, folks, this is it. The moment of truth. Remember, no matter what happens, no matter what we see, we stick to the plan. We're here to surrender, not to fight. Even if they start shooting, even if they send out ships that look like they were cobbled together from scrap metal and bad attitude, we do not engage. Is that clear? A chorus of affirmatives rang out across the bridge. Admiral Krathos, looking somewhat green again, nodded his agreement. Good, Zixnager said, his voice taking on a tone of grim determination. Because let me tell you something about humans in first contact situations. They have this thing called science fiction, and they've been imagining meeting aliens for centuries. They've thought of every possible scenario, from peaceful exchanges of knowledge to all-out war. And in every single one of those scenarios, no matter how outgunned or outmatched they might be, the humans always come out on top. He looked around the bridge, meeting the eyes or equivalent sensory organs of each crew member. So whatever you do, don't try to outsmart them. Don't try to outfight them. And for the love of all that's holy, don't try to out-crazy them. Because trust me, when it comes to crazy, humans are the undefeated galactic champions. As if to punctuate his words, the swirling colors of hyperspace suddenly gave way to the star-studded blackness of normal space. And there, hanging in the void like a beautiful, terrifying jewel, was Earth. For a moment there was silence on the bridge. Then, softly at first but quickly growing in volume, came a sound that no one expected: laughter. It was the communications officer, a normally stoic Vrelnak, who had dissolved into fits of giggling. When everyone turned to look at her, she managed to gasp out between laughs, "I'm sorry, Captain, but broadcasting." Zixnager felt a sense of dread settling in his primary stomach. Broadcasting what exactly? The Vrelnak pressed a button, and suddenly the bridge was filled with a cacophony of sounds and images. Hundreds, no, thousands of different transmissions, all overlapping and competing for attention. There were news broadcasts showing everything from political debates to cat videos. There were movies and TV shows depicting alien invasions in every conceivable manner, from the terrifying to the absurd. There was music, an overwhelming variety of it, from classical symphonies to something that sounded like industrial machinery having a seizure. And through it all, one message kept repeating, broadcast in every major language of Earth and, surprisingly, in perfect galactic standard. Attention alien visitors, welcome to Earth. We've been expecting you. Please proceed to the designated landing zones, and for the love of God, don't eat anything a Floridian offers you. Captain Zixnager stared at the view screen, his tentacles drooping in disbelief. Then, slowly, he began to laugh. It started as a low chuckle but quickly grew into a full-bellied roar that shook his entire gelatinous form. Admiral Krathos looked at him in alarm. Captain? Are you all right? What's so funny? Zixnager wiped a tear from one of his eye stalks, still chuckling. Oh, Admiral, don't you see? We came here thinking we were so clever, planning to surrender as a ruse. But the humans have outplayed us before we even arrived. He gestured to the riot of information still pouring from the view screen. Look at this. They're not afraid. They're not surprised. They're welcoming us. And that bit about Florida, they know, Admiral. They know everything. Probably been listening to our transmissions for years, learning our languages, studying our weaknesses. The captain's laughter had taken on a slightly hysterical edge. We thought we were surrendering to them, but the truth is, the moment we entered this system, we lost. It's not a surrender anymore, Admiral. It's an application. Admiral Krathos blinked all four of his eyes in confusion. An application? For what? Zixnager's grin was equal parts admiration and terror. For junior membership in whatever insane galactic society they're planning to build. Face it, Admiral. We're not conquerors, we're not even clever spies. We're the first wave of immigrants to the new human empire. He turned to the communications officer, his voice filled with a strange mix of resignation and excitement. Well, don't just sit there gawking. Answer them. Tell them the Galactic Confederation graciously accepts Earth's offer of hospitality and looks forward to peaceful cultural exchange. As the message was sent, Zixnager settled back into his command chair, watching the blue-green orb of Earth grow larger on the view screen. You know, he mused, almost to himself, I've always wondered what a hot dog tastes like. Admiral Krathos, who had sunk into a nearby chair in a daze, managed to croak out, Captain, are you sure about this? We're really just going to land? Zixnager's laugh had softened to a chuckle. Oh, my dear Admiral, at this point, I'm not sure of anything except this: the humans are calling the shots now, and our best bet is to smile, nod, and hope they decide we're more useful as friends than as dinner. He leaned forward, his eyes gleaming with a mixture of fear and anticipation. Besides, think of the stories we'll have to tell. The day we surrendered to Earth, and they threw us a welcome party. It'll be a hit at the next Galactic Confederation mixer. As the fleet began its descent towards the designated landing zones, the bridge of the Unstoppable Doom was filled with a nervous energy. Some crew members were excitedly discussing which Earth cultures they wanted to experience first, while others were quietly making peace with whatever deities they believed in. Captain Zixnager, for his part, was already planning how to phrase his report to the High Council. A successful first contact established with Earth, he muttered to himself. Minor complications including total surrender of Confederation authority and possible involuntary enlistment in human galactic expansion efforts. But on the bright side, their music is catchy and their food, well, we'll find out soon enough if it's to die for. As the ships entered Earth's atmosphere, a new transmission came through. A human face appeared on the screen, smiling in a way that managed to be both welcoming and slightly terrifying. Greetings, friends from the stars. On behalf of the people of Earth, I bid you welcome. We've prepared a small reception for you. Nothing fancy, just a few billion of us gathering to say hi. Oh, and don't worry about the folks in tinfoil hats. They're mostly harmless. The human smile widened, showing far too many teeth for comfort. We're so looking forward to learning all about you and your civilization. We have so many questions, like how fast can your ships go? What's the load-bearing capacity of your hull materials? Oh, and do you happen to know anything about the strategic weaknesses of any other alien races? You know, just for conversation's sake. Captain Zixnager turned to Admiral Krathos, his expression a mixture of resignation and amusement. Well, Admiral, I hope you brushed up on your diplomatic skills. Something tells me we're in for one hell of a cultural exchange. As the Unstoppable Doom touched down on Earth, amidst cheering crowds and flashing cameras, Captain Zixnager had one last thought before the doors opened to their new reality. Maybe we should have just sent a fruit basket instead. And with that, the Galactic Confederation's 17th Conquest Fleet became the first official alien delegation to Earth, ushering in a new era of interstellar relations, an era that would be marked by human ingenuity, alien befuddlement, and the lingering question of whether surrender had been the best or worst decision in galactic history. But one thing was certain: the universe would never be the same again, and somewhere in the vast reaches of space, other alien civilizations felt a sudden, inexplicable urge to update their defense systems and maybe, just maybe, send a polite "please don't notice us" note to that little blue planet in the unfashionable western spiral arm of the galaxy. After all, it's better to be a friend of humanity than, well, whatever the alternative might be. Just ask the Drekkar. Oh wait, you can't, they're all gone. Bon appetit, Earth. As the doors of the Unstoppable Doom hissed open, Captain Zixnager and Admiral Krathos found themselves face to face with a sea of humans. The cacophony of cheers, camera clicks, and what seemed to be impromptu alien-themed rock concerts was overwhelming. Well, Zixnager muttered to the Admiral, at least they're not shooting at us. Yet, a group of humans in suits approached, led by a woman with a smile that could either mean welcome, friends, or I can't wait to dissect you. She extended her hand and Zixnager stared at it in confusion. You're supposed to shake it, Admiral Krathos whispered helpfully, having apparently become an expert on human customs in the last 5 minutes. Zixnager cautiously wrapped a tentacle around the woman's hand, giving it a gentle squeeze. To his surprise, she didn't recoil in disgust or try to eat his appendage. Progress, he thought. Welcome to Earth, the woman said, her voice carrying across the landing area thanks to some impressively discreet audio technology. I'm Dr. Elena Rodriguez, Earth's Extraterrestrial Relations Coordinator. We're so glad you could make it. Zixnager blinked all 7 of his eyes. You were expecting us? Dr. Rodriguez's smile widened. Oh, of course, we've been monitoring your transmissions for years. We particularly enjoyed your captain's logs. The one about the space pirate and the mistaken identity with the tentacle monster. Hilarious. The captain felt his chromatophores shifting to a deep purple of embarrassment. You heard that? We heard everything, Dr. Rodriguez said cheerfully. In fact, we've prepared a little welcome package based on what we've learned about your species. We have accommodations with the perfect balance of methane and oxygen, a variety of foods that should be compatible with your digestive systems, and even some entertainment options. I believe you're particularly fond of something called zero-gravity juggling. Admiral Krathos leaned in close to Zixnager. Captain, I'm beginning to think we may be slightly out of our depth here. Oh, Admiral, Zixnager chuckled. We're not just out of our depth. We're bottom-dwelling cave fish who've suddenly found ourselves in the Mariana Trench. Dr. Rodriguez clapped her hands together. Now, I'm sure you have lots of questions. Rest assured, we'll get to all of them. But first, how about a tour? We've prepared a little showcase of human culture and technology. Nothing too fancy, just a few of our latest advancements in quantum computing, nanotechnology, and zero-point energy extraction. Oh, and we thought you might be interested in our little experiments with pocket dimensions. Just some light afternoon entertainment. As they were ushered towards a series of sleek, impossibly advanced-looking buildings, Zixnager couldn't help but notice something odd. Scattered among the cheering crowds were humans wearing T-shirts with slogans like for one, welcome our new alien overlords on Earth. Closed for renovations. Opening soon as Galactic Hub 42. Dr. Rodriguez, the captain said slowly, I can't help but feel like you've been preparing for this moment for a long time. The doctor's laugh was like tinkling bells, if those bells could somehow convey both warmth and a vague sense of menace. Oh, Captain Zixnager, you have no idea. Let's just say that humanity has always had a special interest in the stars. And now that you're here, well, the sky's no longer the limit, is it? As they entered the first building, Zixnager and his crew found themselves surrounded by technology that made their most advanced systems look like children's toys. Holographic displays showed Earth's rapid advancement over the past century, from the first radio transmissions to their current, mind-boggling level of development. But how? Admiral Krathos sputtered, his scales shifting through a rainbow of confused colors. Our intelligence said you were pre-FTL. How did you advance so quickly? Dr. Rodriguez's smile took on a hint of mischief. Oh, that. We may have fudged some of our public transmissions. You'd be amazed what you can hide with enough cat videos and reality TV shows. She leaned in conspiratorially. Between you and me, we cracked FTLA about 50 years ago. We just decided to keep it quiet. After all, it's so much more fun to surprise visitors, don't you think? Zixnager felt a hysterical laugh bubbling up inside him. So let me get this straight. We came here thinking we were going to magnanimously offer our surrender to a primitive species, only to find out that you're actually centuries ahead of us technologically and have probably been pulling the strings of galactic civilization for decades. Dr. Rodriguez patted him on what she probably thought was his shoulder. Oh, don't be so hard on yourself, Captain. You're here, aren't you? That's the first step. And trust me, we have big plans for the Galactic Confederation. How do you feel about a little reorganization? Nothing major, just a complete restructuring of galactic society with Earth at the center. Damn it. Ooh. We're thinking of calling it Space United Nations, or SUN for short. Catchy, right? As they moved through the exhibition, each display more awe-inspiring than the last, Zixnager found himself oscillating between terror and exhilaration. The humans had somehow managed to combine technologies in ways that should have been impossible, creating synergies that boggled the mind. And this, Dr. Rodriguez said, gesturing to a small, unassuming cube, is our latest breakthrough. We call it the Plot Device. It can basically do anything the story requires. Faster-than-light communication? Check. Universal translation? Check. Rewriting the laws of physics on a whim? Double check. Admiral Krathos, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, finally spoke up. But why? Why go to all this trouble? Why not just conquer the galaxy if you're so advanced? Dr. Rodriguez's laugh this time was full and hearty. Conquer? Oh, my dear Admiral, that's so unimaginative. Why conquer when you can integrate? We don't want to rule the galaxy. We want to party with it. She spread her arms wide, encompassing the entire exhibition. This is just a welcome banquet. Humanity is ready to join the galactic community, but we're doing it our way. We're throwing the biggest, craziest, most mind-bending welcome party the universe has ever seen. And you, my friends, are our guests of honor. Zixnager felt a tentacle being pressed into his grasp. He looked down to find himself holding a glass of something fluorescent and bubbling. What's this? He asked, eyeing the drink suspiciously. Oh, just a little human concoction, Dr. Rodriguez said with a wink. We call it a pan-galactic gargle blaster. Don't worry, we've adjusted the formula for your physiology. It should only be mildly hallucinogenic. As Zixnager cautiously sipped the drink, feeling it fizz and pop all the way down to his tertiary stomach, he had a sudden, crystal-clear realization. The Galactic Confederation hadn't just surrendered to Earth. They had unknowingly volunteered to be the opening act in humanity's debut on the galactic stage. And what a debut it was going to be. Months later, as the newly christened United Galactic Federation the humans had decided Sun was a bit on the nose, held its first interstellar conference, Captain Zixnager found himself standing on a stage, addressing representatives from 1,000 worlds. "My fellow sentients," he began, still not quite believing the words coming out of his speech orifice, "I stand before you today not as a conqueror, not as the conquered, but as a friend to humanity, and a friend to all species who are ready to embark on the greatest adventure the galaxy has ever known." He paused, looking out over the sea of aliens, all wearing expressions ranging from excitement to utter confusion. In the front row, Dr. Rodriguez gave him a thumbs up and an encouraging nod. "When we came to Earth, we thought we knew what to expect. We were wrong. Humanity has shown us that the universe is stranger, more wonderful, and far more fun than we ever imagined. They've taught us that the best way to face the unknown isn't with fear or aggression, but with curiosity, adaptability, and a really good sense of humor." Zixnager raised his glass, filled with another concoction the humans had introduced to galactic civilization, something called a cosmic colada. "So here's to humanity, our new friends and partners in this grand cosmic dance. May their craziness inspire us, their creativity challenge us, and their friendship guide us as we step together into a future that's bound to be one hell of a ride." As the assembled aliens cheered and toasted, Zixnager couldn't help but chuckle to himself. Somewhere out there in the vast expanse of space, he knew other alien civilizations were picking up transmissions from Earth, scratching their heads, or equivalent appendages in confusion. And as those civilizations grappled with the sudden realization that the galaxy had changed forever, Zixnager had one piece of advice for them. "Welcome to the party, folks. And whatever you do, don't eat anything a Floridian offers you. Trust me on this one." With that, the greatest era of galactic history began, not with a bang, not with a whimper, but with a toast, a laugh, and the faint strains of what humans call disco echoing across the cosmos. The universe would never be the same again, and honestly, that was probably for the best. After all, who wanted a boring universe anyway? Certainly not humanity. And definitely not their new alien friends, who were quickly learning that in the grand scheme of things, it was far better to laugh with the humans than to be laughed at by them. And so, as the party raged on and the stars themselves seemed to dance to the beat of human music, one thing became abundantly clear. The galaxy may not have been ready for humanity, but humanity was more than ready for the galaxy. Let the good times roll. Across light years and dimensions, through nebulae and black holes, the message was clear. Earth was open for business, the drinks were on the house, and the party was just getting started.